Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome to another edition of Remixing Politics and Culture with me, your host, Pam. I am a public relations and marketing professional with a passion for social justice, voter advocacy, and culture. And tonight, welcome back to a live show. I know I've been away for a little bit, it's been rough. Uh, Working full time and doing a show is a lot of work, but I'm back and so happy to be back too. We're going to start off this show. This show is all about something that will bring us all some joy. How about that? And anytime we can discuss something that will bring about a positive change, I'm all for it. And tonight, we're actually doing a bit of a part two of a show on education. We had Semaj Brown on a few weeks back while she and others were planning for the Black Dandelion Convergent Voice City of Flint Literacy Week. Well, that special week of events have happened during last month, in the month of April, of course, which was also National Poetry Month, and she and two of her colleagues are here tonight to discuss the impact of this special teaching methodology or pedagogy that Semaj Brown has created, called Black Dandelion Convergent Voice, or BDCV for short. Let me bring the guests on to the stage so they can explain it. So first up, I'm going to bring the lady herself, Semaj Brown. She is Flint, Michigan's inaugural Poet Laureate and the recipient of the Academy of American Poets Laureate Fellowship in 2021. She was a visiting artist, educator, and editor at the Flint Institute of Arts Art School in 2023, the recipient of the Community Violence and Intervention and Prevention Initiative Grant for Black Dandelion from the city of Flint. She's an award-winning educator, author, and founder and creator of the transformative multidimensional platform known as Black Dandelion Convergent Voice. Welcome back to the show, Semaj.
Wonderful, Pam. Welcome. You've been away for a minute. Welcome. We missed you.
Yes, yes. There's our soror, Loretta Thompson Walker. Hey there, Edith.
Hello. Great.
Okay.
Edith is a reading, writing, word warrior. Hello to the reading, writing, word warrior.
Okay. So next up we have Mr. Richard Carey Thompson. There he is. Richard Carey Thompson is a visionary and servant leader in education with more than 2 decades of experience championing equitable learning opportunities for at-risk and non-traditional students. Known for his charismatic leadership and deep commitment to community transformation, Richard has led several alternative and online education initiatives across the state of Michigan, creating trauma-informed, competency-based environments where students often facing poverty, legal barriers, or personal trauma can thrive. Currently serving as superintendent principal of Greater Heights Academy in Flint, Michigan, Richard designs and oversees programs that integrate brick and mortar education with online learning, before and after school initiatives, and comprehensive support services. His previous leadership includes key roles in Flint's Gear Up Academy and Swartz Creek Community Schools, where he implemented court-connected education models and adult learning programs to re-engage disconnected youth and lifelong learners. Whether guiding a student through graduation, partnering with juvenile justice system, or leading a district-wide initiative, Richard Carey Thompson remains passionately focused on education as a tool for justice, resilience, character formation, and intellectual awakening. Welcome, Richard, to the show. Thank you
Thank,
for
thank
coming.
you, Miss Pam. It's an honor to be here with yourself and Miss Semaj Brown.
All right. And last but certainly not least, we have Lisa Sarno. Lisa is a poet, musician, and performer based in Flint, Michigan. She is a member of a Lansing based women's poetry and performance group known as Voices of the Revolution. She is active currently in local poetry events, open mic engagements, and performances with other artists. Lisa is an informal community organizer who believes in the expression and power of resistance. She currently works as a social worker, clinical supervisor with a specialization in adolescent and family therapy. Lisa has recently published her first collection of poetry with her chapbook, Grasping at Stars. Welcome, Lisa, to the show.
Thank you, Pam. And hi, Semaj and Richard. Really nice to meet you.
Yes, listen, I got a little choked up when I first read Richard's bio. That wasn't all of it, guys. That's just snippets of it. Richard, I wanted to start off the conversation with you because I know for a fact that you were introduced early on to Semaj's multidimensional platform, Black Dandelion Convergent Voice. I mean, you were at the ground floor level of being introduced to it. And I'm curious as to what did you think about it when you were first introduced? And then I want you to tell me how you define the platform. Take it away.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Miss Semaj. Thank you, Lisa. So this all happened on a snow day in Flint, Michigan. And the amazing Miss Liddell Lewis, a city councilwoman, said, you have to meet this amazing lady named Semaj Brown. She does a whole concept with poetry and this. We have to get your two energies together. And so I said, I would be honored. It's an honor to be, the superintendent principal because you have that influence to bring in new programs for our students. And so, and Miss Semaj has the other part of that story of how we met. Do you want to go into that, Miss Brown?
Well, with Dr. Lewis, I had planned my year basically, and I was finished. And when Dr. Lewis said, Semaj, you have to meet, I said, oh, but I'm finished for the year. No, not right now, maybe next year. And she said, no, you must meet Mr. Richard Thompson because he's an exceptional innovator in education. And I said, all right, okay. I said, all right. And so when we met, it was just fabulous. We understood from the same perspective, both being innovators in education, and he having a long history, and I have a long, long history as well. So yes, it was fantastic.
So we met, and after I understood what Miss Brown was trying to do, how can you come into a school system? And when you run a school, it's very much, organize this. How do I introduce this amazing concept to bring in such an amazing person with her team for our scholars to then be introduced to the poem of Black Dandelion and everything that it represents, the justice, the creativity, and then to work with our students, our scholars. And so we did that within a program, and we had about 2 the first year and about 13 the next year and even more the third year.
Wow.
And so when I understood that who Semaj Brown was, and I did my research, I'm very much the educator and research. I went through the whole concept, told my amazing parents about this person, and then brought her in to work individually with our scholars. Now, we have to understand that most of our scholars are behind in their English, in their math. Mm-hmm. Most of our students are very shy and will not speak in front of anyone. We have many different opportunities, but not to this level. We actually created a stage in the school because I believe that public speaking will change lives. We have to get our young ones down from kindergarten all the way up to be able to speak in front of people, because at one point you're going to go for a job interview, and how do you present? And that alone, to see that trajectory. So Miss Semaj came in, worked with our scholars. First is, what is this black dandelion? How does it connect to your life? So it really wasn't a sit and get, right? It was not the sage on the stage. It was the guide on the side, right? And so in Latin, educare means to draw out. Educare, to draw out of the student, of the scholar. And so Semaj and the reading warriors would come in and work with our scholars individually. And the transformation that I saw, the fostering creativity, building confidence, improving their academic performance, rose beyond with the scholars she worked with. Their attendance went up because they wanted to come to school. They wanted to be part of this amazing opportunity. And what an honor it was, because we could only choose X amount.
Right.
This program needs to be in every single school, down from kindergarten through adult ed, because it will change lives. I saw from our scholars, they were afraid to go up on the stage and even say their name, to presenting their interpretation of what they saw in the black dandelion at the amazing Flint Institute of Arts, at an entire program. It changed their lives. Their scores in English went up because they understood that English and how I use it can also go into my own self-efficacy and how I can share what some of my challenges are. So you talk about mental health, you talk about culture and climate. That's just a few of the things that Semaj and her team brought out in our scholars. And so you look at virtus et scientia, right? Another brilliant Latin lesson. Virtus, your virtue, right? Your character, who I am. Your scientia, the science, the education. So it's your character and your formation and your education. And that's what I saw with these scholars, to the point that their parents didn't know who they were when they were up on the stage at the Institute of Arts. Like, that's my kid up there. Like, oh my. And they're answering questions. They're classy, because it was the entire process over months, right? Of how to even speak, how to act, how to walk, how to answer questions, how to listen. Right? And so as an early adopter, I was honored to be one of the first, and Semaj and I have connected on so many other levels on what she is trying to bring, not only the social justice, but how do I empower this through all of the arts, through their creativity, their drawings, their paintings, their sculptures, their dance. So who gets that? We were honored to have this in Greater Heights Academy in Flint, Michigan, USA, planet Earth, as I say, with all my scholars, because this is not just a parochial idea. This is not just the United States. This is a worldwide concept. And even that first year, she had a school over in Africa that was part of this, because we all are connected. What unites us as humans outweighs what divides us.
Yes.
And through poetry, through Miss Semaj concept of the black dandelion, and that's just one of her many different programs, right?
Right.
I closed in another interview this quote that my lovely sister sent to me years ago. And when, you know, as educators, you know that it only takes one person to change the trajectory of a person's life.
Right.
Yeah,
It's true.
that's true.
To the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. And Miss Semaj became the world to these kids, to open up their eyes to the world. You see, so it's not just this person, it's wow, I can do this.
Mhm.
I can do this.
Mhm.
That was the transformation. That was what happened in the inner city. It was the empowerment through self-expression.
Mm. Wow. 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 And Richard, I know I could have you for my teacher. You remind me, listen, you remind me of my old teachers from Cass
Thank
Tech
you.
High School.
Cass Tech, yeah.
Yes, yes. You remind me of that enthusiasm and that, you capture our attention and all of that. It's just wonderful. I'm so excited. So Lisa, your turn next. Now
Uh-oh.
you get involved, Miss Social Worker, Miss Artist, Miss how did you get involved with that?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it. So a couple of years ago in 2023, I the Voices of the Revolution, the poetry collective that I run with, we were bringing in to Flint, Michigan, a poetry collaboration with composition, with music. And we had the uncanny luck of collaborating with Adrian Torf, who is a composer and who also was a life partner for the poet June Jordan.
Oh.
And so we were doing the June Jordan experience. We were doing some of that stuff. And so very targeted, we really thought that we wanted to come to Flint with that and bring this to Flint. Everyone overlooks Flint.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made a very targeted effort to bring it to the Universalist Unitarian Church in Flint. And in our further efforts to collaborate with Flint, we reached out to who we thought knew Flint and was Flint, and Semaj. That's when I learned of Semaj Brown, that she was our poet laureate.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask Semaj if she'll be a part of this. So I just kind of cold called Semaj. I think I got her contact information, and I sent her a message or an email. And Semaj was in the state that she talked about earlier, where she had already booked her year and she was doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like a good social work training I have, I just tried to avoid a hard no. And I just kind of got more involved, and I was looking at what Semaj was doing in the community, and then trying to follow her around and keep showing up. And I wore her down. Semaj told us she would participate. And so she opened up our evening, the June Jordan experience, the collaboration that we did with Adrian Torf and the Voices of the Revolution. She opened our evening up with the Black Dandelion. So, yeah. And it's been a love affair ever since.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
So how did you actually you actually participated in the week of literacy at for Flint, Michigan? So
Pam, what a week, Pam.
Oh, we're gonna
have workshops every day for 7 days, and there were high engagement in every one of them. It blew me away.
Yeah. We've got the whole website, but I want to know, tell me what you did specifically in your workshop.
Yeah, Semaj and I met a few months earlier, and she offered this opportunity to me, and I really jumped at it. I ended up doing a workshop that I called Resilience and Resistance, a Black Dandelion Birth into the Future.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And so my first thought was, I'm echoing everything that people have said already. I'm echoing this idea of how do we make poetry accessible to people so that they can find them, so that they can walk in it comfortably? How do we start touching poetry, this idea of expression and this idea of thoughts and critical thinking and expansive thinking? And so I created a workshop using the Black Dandelion poem, where in the early part of the workshop, I had the participants just touching the poem. We went through it line by line.
Okay.
read it aloud a few times. People sat with it. People started expressing with it, and it opened up. And you know, I went in there just trying to get people comfortable to talk about poetry and relate to poetry. And what happened turned into a clinical. It was a clinical intervention. So we went from walking through Semaj's poem and people walking through it to creating an identity poem in the second half of the workshop.
Okay.
And then sharing that poem with the group. And I think one of the most, for me, what was going on at the time was the workshop was great. The engagement was incredible. People were just so willing to give and to share and to be vulnerable. It was amazing. But Semaj was in the room, and the majority of participants were not aware that Semaj was in the room. I was aware Semaj was in the room. So,
it was so good.
It was
so good.
So we just talked about her poem like for a half hour or more, line by line. Everyone just related. And I think I was kind of half thinking, well, how is Semaj receiving this? Like, it was transformative. It was transformative for the people to discuss the poem, for the author of the poem to hear that, for me to facilitate that. And what was even more transformative, I think, were our identity pieces that we created. We did essentially a clinical intervention with narrative therapy that morning.
Narrative therapy. What is
narrative? Call this?
What is that? What is that?
It's an experiential therapy. It's a actual evidence-based practice that looks at the self-narrative. Like, I am. This is my narrative. And often in that narrative, as Richard discussed and Semaj will, often in that narrative is very weak, and it's full of trauma. It's full of pain. It's full of fear, and it's very dissociative. And through narrative therapy, writing the story, talking about the story, fleshing it out, strength-based, adding connections, making gestalt, right? Through that narrative writing process, we come out with a different narrative, one that's more of whole and identity. And that's what Richard's doing by putting those children on stage. That Gear Up program, Richard, is fantastic. You know, he's fleshing that narrative out. We start with this real thin, this is me, and no one's here to help me, or I don't run under, you know, and we keep working and we flesh that narrative out till we get to, you know, a greater sense of connection and strength through literacy, through words. I think it's Semaj Brown. I was listening to an interview that you did, Semaj, and I think I remember you saying something like, for every word, there's a whole universe or something like that. Every word contains every word is a world. Within every word, there is a world. And if we take the time to examine that world, and then it has all these synonyms circling it, words that are similar to that word. And then from there, we create phrases, and then finally paragraphs, and then papers. And that's how we work. And I relate it to our own body, our own human body, our physical experience. A word is like a cell. And then you take each word is like a cell. Like we have human body cells. And then the cells form and they create tissue, right? So words form and they create phrases and sentences. Tissues form and then they create organs. The words, the sentences create paragraphs. So we're really talking about a living organism. We're talking about words, just like we're a living organism. And then those organisms, those organs create systems. So in your circulatory system, you have your heart, you have your different veins, you have the blood. Well, when you're talking about words, you have something very similar. You create
of a whole thought processing of your paper. And that's how I'm able to take children who can barely read
Mm-hmm.
or reading below their grade level, because we start out with the unit of life, which is the word, because it's a thought.
Uh-huh.
We build those thoughts until they become actual systems of reality for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, once you show children that you can build these words, and the words are
Yes.
very much personified. When I say that, you give them human characteristics. There's something that's funny that I think I do. I said, okay, what if we have two friends together and they're real close and they're talking secrets and it's nobody's business and we're all huddled up and we're talking. And somebody walks into your space,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to say, excuse me, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Identify yourself. Well, I tell my students that's the same thing when you find yourself with a word that you're not familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Say, excuse me, you're in my brain. I don't know who you are. You need to identify yourself word. So you go to the dictionary and you find out about this word. Maybe I'll let you in. Maybe I'll find a synonym, another word that's better suited. And so we have fun with these words.
Yes.
And I remember I was at the institute, and I was asking one of my students, I said, so what does this make you feel like? She said, Miss Brown, I need a word. She said, I'll be right back. I'm going to fifth grader. This is one of Mr. Thompson's students.
Uh-huh.
And she said, I need a word. I'll be right back. I'll return with several. And she returned with several words. She said, it makes me feel this way, this way, this way. Because now the words are not something that is distant from them.
Mm-hmm.
It's personal to them.
Mm-hmm.
Once something gets in your brain, that's intimate. That's closeness.
Uh-huh.
So these words, for all of us, they're in our brain. That's how we use them, language, right?
Uh-huh.
Communicate all these thoughts or words. And so my students understand that. It's really a lot of fun, because you know how we get the adults together. They may play cards.
Right.
They may play spades. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I have time to cultivate these children. They start playing for verbs.
Okay.
Or they may play for adjectives. What kind of word do you have? You have a high value word? How many syllables do you have? How many synonyms can you name? And what's the word in your pocket?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Entirely different relationships. So in a short amount of time, where we have been struggling with literacy and the students haven't been reading and the students are failing, in a short amount of time because it's very intense. It's very intense. It's very focused. And Black Dandelion Convergent Voice emerges out of a pedagogy and an andragogy. Or pedagogy is teaching children, andragogy is teaching adults. I merge the two because many of our children are confronted with adult situations. So they have to take care of their younger brother and sisters. They have to cook for themselves. They have to clean for themselves. They have to make all kinds of decisions. Yeah. And so we're still teaching these children like they're little itty bitty children. And they are children, but yet they're faced with other responsibilities. So we need to bring in the way we teach adults is through projects and through application. And so when you teach children through projects and application, they get it, they understand it. And then I also make sure that when I'm teaching the pedagogy, the method of teaching, that's what I'm saying. The method of teaching dictates that we never teach one subject at a time.
Okay.
So if you're teaching literacy, you're combining it with art, you're combining it with science, you're combining it with music, you're combining it with something else, sometimes three all at the same time, because that's the way our brain works.
That's right.
Something happened where we have a knowledge industry that's invested in silos. So you teach this subject, I teach that subject, and they do not intersect, but that's not how the brain works. So I'm really creating curriculum that is not just cross curriculum, it's integrative.
Yes.
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 And the students, because the students and adults, they get it. The brain absorbs it very quickly like this. This was at University of Michigan as well. And those professors were using it with those students.
Yeah.
It's from the 3rd grade all the way to senior citizens, community and university.
Yeah.
It's another way of thinking.
Yes.
And
Yes.
It is,
I
it is
like,
not,
Yes,
it
ma'am.
is not Western. And I pull from the communal, I call it the communal classroom,
Yes.
where we're responsible for each other. That's right
Mhm.
out of an African tradition.
Mm.
In South Africa, they call it Ubuntu,
Mm-hmm.
where this is an interesting concept. The anthropologist was working with these West African children, and he said, "How many of you like pie?" And they said, "Oh, we like a sweet pie." He said, "Okay, this is what I'll do. I have a pie for you."
Oh no.
oh no.
And they said,
Froze up a
"Okay,
little bit.
Yeah.
Semaj.
pardon me."
You froze up just a little bit. We lost you
Okay,
in a little bit.
am
Yeah.
I back?
You're
Yes.
back. You're back.
Okay, the fastest runner will get the pie.
Mm-hmm.
So all the children, he said, "Ready, set." And he stood in a distance where the tree was, and they had little ones, they had big ones. They grabbed hands and they started running. The little ones were just their feet were in the air. The tall ones were pulling. It was like this amorphous type of running because it was this non-circle but circle. So they reached a tree. And when they reached the tree, they jumped up and down and they said, "We won, we won, we won." So the Western anthropologists are saying, what's going on? What do you mean you won? Because we all get the pie.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
different concept. It's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
cooperative instead of competitive.
Cooperative, right?
It's collective. And so
Yeah.
in the classroom, I create this kind of, it's a step-by-step method that I use to create this type of cooperative, communal thinking
Mm-hmm.
so that now the students are not learning alone.
Mm-hmm.
They become responsible for it. They start helping each other. No, this
Yeah.
goes this way. This is how you make the tea. This is what you do here.
So,
Mhm.
see, if I could just really like jump right on top of that, piggyback on all of that she said. My workshop actually did not have young children or adolescents. I had adults. And so we're talking about literacy and we're talking about trauma and we're talking about all this stuff. But what I saw in that room that day was almost clinical, right? In a sense of healing, in a sense of, because when we talk about trauma, we tend to, as people, as professionals, as social workers, try to rally around that person with the trauma. And again, that idea of siloing. We deal with trauma like whack-a-mole.
Mm-hmm.
The trauma that's happening for us is community trauma. It's large group trauma, whether it be the lead poisoning in Flint, whether it be COVID, whether it be just the systemic racism and right trauma. It's large group trauma. It's like Hurricane Katrina,
It
and
is.
the recovery is going to take work with community healing. And that's where I think narrative therapy is the most robust. Right. So to take this group of people from their own traumas, where they started in the beginning, when we started discussing their relationship to this poem, Black Dandelion, using expressive language, being allowed to access expressive language, expansion, right? We got to the end of the workshop. There were tears. We got to the end of the workshop and there was a sense of collectivism and strength and healing. So I think for mental health workers, this is where it's at.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And to lean into that and, this improved self-expression. And I think we also need to give a shout out in the respect and dignity to all teachers in education in America and the world today. It is not an easy world to be a teacher, an administrator, anyone in education today. We need to respect our teachers who are there giving their time, their life, their own money to our scholars. And I saw it in one of our amazing teachers, 6th grade, Miss Richard. She took these kids who on one level were all over the place and formed them to the point where you look at this community theory that you speak thereof, Semaj and Lisa, that she then went into herself and created her own poem from her own expression.
Yes, yes.
It was just amazing. It wasn't just for the scholar.
Mm-hmm.
It was so brilliant of what Semaj and her team did that Miss Richard and all her brilliance said, can I write my own? And was given the opportunity to share that.
Mm-hmm.
That does not happen in education very often.
Mm-hmm.
That literally the scholar is teaching the teacher, and the teacher then has that amazing opportunity to have that self-expression. So I just want to thank all teachers who give their time to our youth, and every single day, and administrators. And so when Miss Brown came to me, my idea is community. How many people can I bring into a school to an opportunity so that these kids can have the opportunity? We do that with the Institute of Music to bring them to the different concerts, to this, to that, because the classroom is not the school. The classroom is the world. How do we get them out there? And Semaj, the quote, to the world. She brought the world to us and then brought those kids out into said world so that they can make their world better for themselves and then their whole life going forward. The trajectory is amazing.
I would like to give a shout out. I would like to say thank you to Jennifer Seymour Dunton, Edith Withy, Rosie Way Henderson, and Roberta Bobby Sweetman. These have been the reading, writing, word warriors, RW3s, and they have been with me on this journey, particularly this year, last year as well. And we were able to do extraordinary things in several schools. And so I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank my husband.
He's in here. He's in,
I
here.
want to thank my husband, Dr. James Brown.
There he is.
Thank you, darling. Because without Dr. James Brown, this would not be possible. Period. He's my anchor. And he allows, and I do mean allows, in the best way, he supports this work. When we first met, I had a circular diagram with literacy in the middle, and all those concentric rings had all the other subjects around it. And I showed it to him, how important this was to me. He said, wait a minute. He went out to his car and went to his briefcase. He had a circular diagram with health in the middle and all the other subjects around it. And we sat and talked for hours, whether it would be literacy would be the core, or whether health would be the core.
You guys have done both. That guys, that's a whole nother story. If I had, I could do a show on just the two of them together, because together they're pretty amazing people. I've got The Classroom is the World. Oh yes, RW3s. Okay.
All right. Yes.
I've got to show you guys this website so that you can see all of the work, the fantastic work that was done during the Literacy Week in Flint, Michigan last month. So I am going to show this.
Thank you, Cousin Linda. I have to just thank people.
Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
I can.
Hey, all right. So guys, this is the website showing the City of Flint Literacy Week. All of their activities, and look, the seeds are blowing back. Black dandelion is growing in a town, city, or school near you.
It was just in Detroit. We had 3 workshops in the Detroit area.
That's
wonderful. Yes.
Yep. And there was a proclamation from Flint Mayor Sheldon Neely and City Council President Dr. Liddell Lewis.
Yes, it was.
Soror, Loretta, that's our soror. So another Zeta lady. From Flint to Detroit, Grand Rapids, California, and Togo, West Africa, and beyond. Black Dandelion has been there. And so what do you want me to show first, Semaj?
Go to events. I will go up to the three lines. Keep going up. I will go up.
There I am.
And, oh, there you did it. Okay. So we started. Want me to walk us through it?
Yeah, I'm gonna yeah.
Okay. This very first square, all those microphones, was the most fabulous press conference for Black Dandelion Convergent Voice. We were there. Dr. Liddell Lewis read the proclamation, and they announced the Semaj Brown Day. I was in shock, and it was great. The reading writing word warriors, RW3s, they were all there. We were on the stage together. And let's skip over to the third one. That's purple. You see that one right there? It has gold writing. Oh boy, that was at University of Michigan. And three professors, and one of the professors is our soror. That's soror Samara Howe.
Okay.
And they looked at Black Dandelion through several different lenses with their students. There were three different professors. One was from the Center of, she's head of the Center of Women's Studies and Gender Studies, I believe. And then there was a professor of sociology. They looked at the sociological conflict theory and Black Dandelion, and those students really presented. Oh my goodness. At that, in the Kiva Auditorium, there also in attendance was a Beecher, an alternative school in Beecher, higher education school. And it was really wonderful for those students to be in the same scholastic atmosphere.
Yes.
It was wonderful. And so if we go, so that's that. And if you go back to the, if you backspace, you'll get to where all the events were. You just left them.
Okay.
So, all righty. So we can go down here. Over here, let me see what this is. It's also on Tuesday. Okay, that happened in Detroit. That was East Point. That was Darylyn Brown and Sonia Ponce at the East Point Library. And they did a huge Black Dandelion program. Just absolutely fantastic. So it's spreading. It was just wonderful. They had great attendance. That's Darylyn there. She's a 33-year teacher in Detroit Public Schools. Also, she's an award-winning teacher. And Sonia Ponce, you see her, she's an engineer, has her own engineering firm, her own engineering firm. And she also has a master's in poetry.
Oh my.
So you can do both. You can be in the sciences and the arts, and it was just really wonderful. So we go to the next one, you backspace and get us back there. And then the next one that also was happening on Tuesday. Well, we had an open mic. It was fantastic. It was at Totem Bookstore. And at Totem Bookstore, you had the most delicious food by Mama Soul, who's a renowned lyricist and rapper all over the world, hip hop artist. And she has this wonderful food there. And we just had a great time. We looked at all the themes in Black Dandelion and everybody. It was the most joyous experience. People who were afraid to come to approach the mic for the first time readers, they were there on the mic. It was heartfelt. People were telling their heartfelt stories about their own trauma, their life, their joy. And everyone said, let's do it again, Semaj. I was emceeing. I was a host. And people were very surprised because they know me as the poet laureate. I'm pretty proper and prim. And they didn't know that other side of me where I was being the MC. And I was like, oh, hey, we can do this. And so I had a lot of fun. And so then Wednesday, we had two mental health and wellness workshops. Lisa Sarno did one. And there was another one, Ayana Fordham. She did a mental health.
Right?
Pardon me?
Do I have the right one up?
Oh, no, I'm just talking now. I forgot about looking at this. Okay, here, art, and since you're here, I'll talk about this one. Art and ekphrastic writing. Let's stop here for a moment. Let's stop
Okay.
here. Okay. So I can tell you some of we have courses in the Black Dandelion.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all the same. We have courses and they're labeled like BD 100, BD 450, BD 300. I think this was BD 300 or something like that. What happened? We went to Mott Walsh Gallery.
Yes.
Curator is Stephanie James.
Yes.
Those students found different art pieces and looked at the themes in Black Dandelion and imagined the themes in this abstract art. And then they combined them together. We have synergy. And they wrote about it.
Okay.
This is the 5th and 6th grade. Okay.
Oh, you can
And
see
they,
this. Uh-huh.
and then they presented
Okay.
at the gallery, and there was a lovely reception for them.
Oh, wonderful. And
Yes.
see, what I love about this is that you have exposed so many students to the cultural arts and everything through the Black Dandelion Convergent course. A number of these students have not had those opportunities.
The theme this year was Art of Unimagined Ecosystems. So Black Dandelion exposes you to science as well, because we have to know what an ecosystem is, and you have to imagine it. And so we did that work as well, which was yesterday. 4 of those wonderful Madison Academy students, they were part of the program. I think there were over 10. There were maybe 11 or 12, but 4 of them spoke yesterday, and they delivered their work, and they spoke at the FIA as well. And they imagined, one person, her name is Sequoia, she imagined her ecosystem was made out of blood. Oh. And that's how it ran. She talked about the systems and how it worked. I said she's the next Octavia Butler.
Oh my! All right.
Followed my instructions to the letter. In terms of your ecosystem, has to have symbiosis in it. It must have cause and effect. She followed my 14 steps, and she created a narrative. So the way these students that are reading behind, they're behind in their reading. So the question is, well, how are they able to write? How are they able to read? Because I have a questionnaire, which is what we call a lesson plan, but it's all these questions that they are asked. And the questions have A, B, C, D, E, F, many, many levels to it. And they're able to answer the questions. Now that they're interested, they've answered these questions, they've looked at the artwork, they've listened to the music. Now they want to write. I encountered a Peckham Academy student who told me, I don't know how to read and write.
Explain to them what Peckham Academy, those are adjudicated youth?
Yes, they are. They're adjudicated youth. And so he said, I don't know how, after the Black Dandelion presentation, he said, I don't know how to read and write. And he said, but I'll learn for Black Dandelion. And that was the first time he felt comfortable enough to try to read and write. And I had another young lady from another school. I was working with this group, and she told me, Black Dandelion saved my life. At the time, I just, I'm a trained professional, so we don't show any emotion. We're just steady, So I said, so how so? Can you explain that to me? And then she did. She said, when I first received the poem, she said, I read it and I read it again. The more I read it and I studied in my English language arts class, I realized that this was me. But my trauma, she had racial trauma and sexual abuse in her life. And she said, but now it's outside of me. It's in this poem. So what she did to respond to it was write a play. She wrote a play. And it was delivered on the stage of the Flint Institute of Arts. She and her girlfriend, they wrote a play together. And they delivered this. And she told me, she said, it's now it's outside of me. It's on the page and it's on the stage. And that's where I'm gonna leave it.
All right.
On the page and on the stage.
Wow. Wow. I felt bad because I had you covered up, but guys, I got to show you some more of this, of what else, all of the things real quick of oops, no, that's the wrong one. More things that she had that actually went on that week.
Oh, there were so many. It was at one point, and I'll tell you, when I was in
This one is for applying the science of reading to literacy for older learners.
Yes, that was DKG. That is an international women's professional organization. I had presented with them before, and so I returned to them and I said, would you like to be part of this week? And they rose to the occasion, and there was a presenter. I'd have to have my glasses on right now, and it was fantastic. It was just wonderful. Her theory and the way she is breaking down words is really revolutionary. You will learn how to read very quickly. We really have to leave there it is. You have right in front of me, don't you?
Leslie Vaughn.
Leslie Vaughn. Yes. She was fantastic.
Wow.
And this is new learning. We have to, the systems of education that we're using now are antiquated. And that's why children, whether they're poor or middle class or the elite, a lot of them are just checking out.
Right.
They're checking out in class and they're checking out of school because it's not engaging.
Right.
They don't see themselves in the content area.
Right.
This, Semaj, I really want you to speak to Black Dandelion and the neurodivergent learner. This is so important.
It is. So, my good friend, Dr. Sharon Simeon, her doctorate is in special education. And one of the reading, writing word warriors, Jennifer Seymour Dunton, was a 33, I think, year special education teacher. So I thought we would put them together and see if they could deliver this neurodivergent workshop using Black Dandelion, because Jenny was very familiar with it because she had used it at 2 different schools with me. And Sharon Simeon had studied the pedagogy of it and understood all of the articles and the theories that that helps to make. It's called PSL, Poetry as a Second Language, the Semajian method. And so this workshop was completely filled. It had Eagles Nest Academy was there, as the entire school attended, even the secretary, even the office manager. She said, "Oh no, I want to be in on this." She said, because she's that's part of the communal concept, because she's not just the secretary, she's another mother.
Yes.
To these students. She may have grandchildren herself that she can take these techniques and teach them to.
Right.
So this was all the workshops are fantastic, but this was really wonderful. And we were interviewed on WNEM, which is a CBS station here in Saginaw, Michigan.
Yes. Okay. And one more with our sorority sister here.
Yes, this is Ayanna Fordham. And she has her own company. It's called Clockwise. And she's a mental health wellness person. And she's working with and has worked all over the world. She's a traveling social worker. So she hasn't long returned home from Japan.
And yes.
So we're happy to have her here.
Yes, we're so glad that she's back. And let's see, what else do we have here? Just a few more, oh my God, Semaj, look at all of this stuff. Look, we're going to breeze through this.
We don't have to cover it all, because this doesn't cover.
Guys, look at all, look. This all happened in Flint in the month of April for a week. There you are, Lisa. Oh, wait a minute. That skipped. Let me see. There you are. There you are, Lisa.
Yeah. It was fantastic. I couldn't believe it was just what an incredible week, right?
This looks like look, y'all could have done all this in a month because I'm exhausted looking at all this stuff. Look at this. Flowers Against Fascism. Oh my God, look at this.
That took place. Let me please speak to that.
Yes.
Flowers Against Fascism is with Broadside Press. Broadside Lotus Press is
Yes.
the oldest African American publishing press of artists of poets in the United States. They were first to publish Sonia Sanchez, Nikki Giovanni.
Yes.
Dudley Randall founded it.
Yes.
Dr. House and Aurora Harris, Professor Aurora Harris and Dr. House created this workshop for Black Dandelion Convergent Voice. And it was absolutely wonderful. And my last workshop was with Inside Out, that's over to the left, with Phoenix and Elena. And everything became so emotional. Phoenix just screamed out, "We're taking this to Essence." So, and I've gotten an invitation to the Charles Wright African American Museum in Detroit in October for Black Dandelion. So that's wonderful.
Semaj, I wanted you to say where that powerhouse publishing company was based out of.
It's based out of Detroit.
That's right. That's why. Listen, every time we got to say the hometown thing, got to give the hometown.
It's based out of Detroit. It was founded in 1965. This was before the larger publishing houses would publish African Americans. So Dudley Randall, a librarian and a scholar, initiated this publishing first in his own home. And he published those great legacy poets. And I'm a Broadside Press poet.
Yes.
So I'm the next generation after those legacy poets of Sonia Sanchez, Gwendolyn Brooks, a Pulitzer Prize. Gwendolyn Brooks was published by Broadside Lotus. Now it's called Broadside Lotus Press. So very honored that Dr. House and Professor Aurora Harris created a workshop. Flowers, was it against fascism?
Yes, yes.
It was just beautiful.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you something that was amazing. Being in Lisa Sarno's class, most people didn't know who I was. It was a large room. And so the workshop is on the other side of the room, and I'm sitting over here at the table with a couple of the people, registration table. And so people, as they walked in, they didn't know me. And I was happy. I was actually able to listen and hear what they were saying. I felt like a little mouse listening. I was like, and so I was with Cousin Linda, and we were writing notes because we didn't want to make any noise. It was wonderful. And then one young lady, Lisa, gave a break. And as she walked out toward the stairs, she turned and she looked and she screamed. And she said, "I didn't know you were here." She said, "I wouldn't have said anything if I had known you were here." And I said, "Okay, everybody, let's pack up and go. Let's get out of here."
Richard, I'm curious to see how you're feeling right about now, because I've seen you snapping the fingers, and more power to everything. You master teacher, you.
Well, I am just honored again to be in the presence of Semaj Brown. And it's been said to me in different ways that your presence is your witness, and your witness is your present. See, so who Semaj is and all the influence that you have, right? Because really at the end of our lives, what will carry on is how you touched other lives to make them better. That is indeed any living persons of all time. What have I done on this earth to give to who is here now and in generations to come?
Right.
And the privilege, see, it's about opportunity. When I heard from the amazing, and shout out to Dr. Liddell Lewis.
Yes.
Shout out to her. And when I asked her, I said, you know what? Our kids don't even know what dictionaries are. We're talking about words.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get a dictionary for every single scholar?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
The next day, I had 10 cases of dictionaries to give to every scholar
Mm-hmm.
through all of her connections, because it's about, you know, the community that you say, it's like, oh, I know this person, that person can get that for us. And then to look up a word. So we're looking at and working with our scholars, like they didn't even know how to look up said any word.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're talking about words, let's see, how can we look it up? Old school. Mr. T, that's old school. I got my phone, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, we need to go and touch it. We need to feel it, all these senses. And so when Dr. Liddell Lewis said, I want you to meet this person, it was like, this could be an opportunity for our scholars to go outside of what we can do in said school.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Semaj comes in on a snow day. I'm like, I'm going to be there in there. It's a snow day in January.
And I can't drive in the snow.
Can we meet? And she comes to the school in the inner city, Flint, Michigan, USA, planet Earth. And I don't even know how long we spoke. I think the snow melted by the time we were done talking. And so I see it as opportunity privilege. The kids, the scholars, the students, the families that experience this, it was a privilege. And that concept of opportunity privilege, see, no matter, like Ms. Semaj, you spoke about, no matter what your socioeconomic, what do I have for the opportunity to have such an amazing program come in and change my life? I want this for every scholar, for every student across the nation, across the world.
Yes.
Because you see, it changes everything.
Yes.
And the written word from within, when we have empowerment through self-expression, gives then the validation of who I am, what I'm feeling, that I can share that, and that is cathartic and changes lives.
Yes.
So how am I feeling? I am just overwhelmed with honor and joy. And with Semaj, we are here, and everybody that we speak to is like, how can I be part of this? And to all the people out there listening right now, how can you bring something like this to your circle of influence, right? Because it's, what is your circle of influence? This, and how do we bring these energies together?
Well, you're leading up to just the perfect spot right now. I mentioned early in the show, for those of you that weren't here at the very beginning, is that all of this work, all of that stuff you saw that happened, there was no funding sources that were putting that together except for the Brown household. Okay.
We did at the very last minute, there's someone named Sarah who's from New York. She said, Semaj, you're doing so much work. Who's getting the money for you? And I said, I am. And she said, let me try to help you. She said, and she worked on it, and she was able to get us a few sponsors.
Okay.
And that was wonderful. And then we were able to get a donation.
Okay.
From another person. And I don't know if I can say her name here, but we were able to get a donation. But
we have a fundraiser, guys, and we're going to share all of it with you. And guess what? Here's the thing. All of you that are listening to this, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. Please subscribe and like everywhere you are, like it at least, because it helps the algorithm. But with this video, one thing that you can do, is to share. You can share it. And you can teach other people about what Black Dandelion Convergent Voice is. And you can also help to the contribution of its fundraiser.
Yes, we need, let me say this, in order for this work to continue, in
Yes.
order for it has to continue.
Uh-huh.
It's important. It is saving lives. It's making a difference. People who couldn't read are reading, and people who could read that have checked out now find meaning in their world. So, in order for this to continue, we need funding. And one of our funding sources that was from was cut because, as you know,
Yes.
those funds were frozen.
Yes.
So those funds were frozen, and we did not receive that funding. It
Yes.
put us in a situation.
Yes.
And if it had not been for the kindness of family.
Yes.
Cousin Linda, when I told her, the larger funding was cut, she just said, "Oh no,
yes.
They're not going to stop us." Next thing I know, I have boxes on my porch of notebooks, black dandelion notebooks, black dandelion buttons, and all that swag material that you need.
Yes. Yes.
And it was really, and so many people took their time. I'm thinking Lynn Barbie as well. I mean, she was great on a local level, being the in-between, I don't know if the liaison for me with local media and the hostess. And we had some really great partners with the Flint Institute of Arts, the Gloria Club Library, Mott Wash, as well as others. Yes, and this is the fundraiser. So
yes.
And these are some of the students here.
Yes.
I was working with the Alphas. The Alphas have a mentorship group, and there I am. I'm working with them on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m.
Yes.
Working on skills, working our mind. And I'm just grateful in this first picture. I'm just feeling gratitude.
Yes.
And so we need a Black Dandelion book.
Yes.
To give to each one of our students.
Right.
We've been carrying around the poem, it gets paper, it gets raggedy. These children deserve a Black Dandelion book, so it could be their own Black Dandelion book. It will be complete with the synonyms of the 70 words that we have identified. It will be complete with the definitions and the critical thinking questions, because that's what we're doing all the time. We are looking at critical thinking.
Yes.
And it'll have illustrations. So we definitely need a book. And so this fundraiser will help us provide a book to all these students. And also it will help us to continue to go into these classrooms. I need phonics materials. I desperately
that old school stuff, phonics.
We need to be able to break down these words quickly. It doesn't take this. Let me tell you, a report just came out and it said 44th. Michigan is 44th of all the states in reading. That doesn't have to be. That does not have to be.
No, it doesn't.
It was. You can look it up. It's on MLive.
Uh-oh. What did I do? Uh-oh. What am I doing?
Uh-oh.
What am I doing with my screen? Hold on a second. Okay. Sorry about that.
So Michigan being 44th is unacceptable. We can do something. Let me tell you, we can reorganize human capacity.
Yeah.
That's why I just put an ad in one of these papers. I think it was Rosie Ray's, her church. They had an anniversary, Edith with you too. I put a big ad in there for the Read Force. Heard of the Air Force? We need a Read Force.
Right. Right.
People who can read.
Yes.
Each one teach one.
Right. Right.
I'll connect you. We're the connector. That you would go in and read. There's 30 million fewer words for children in poverty here by the time you're age 5?
Yeah.
You know that study, right? So if we have people reading.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I imagine, because I have a big imagination.
Right.
I imagine a time when we walk up to each other and we say, "What are you reading?"
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then someone says, "I'm reading such and such," and they pull it up on their phone, or they say, I just read so and so.
Right.
So that eventually we're going to get to a point where we're going to have a very literate community. We're going to say, what are you reading? Well, what are you reading? And what's your word? What's the word? You know, some of my students, they collected their words. Some of their words was focus. And this year, the theme last year was Art of Unimagined Ecosystems.
Right.
This year is Microscopic Intelligence and the Black Dandelion.
Semaj, I'm with Lee Young, who is an educator, Dr. Lee Young, actually. She wants to know, have you considered having chapters throughout the country?
We would like, Dr. Young, absolutely. We have not only considered it, we would like to have that happen. We would need to have chapters. People need to learn the PSL, Poetry as a Second Language, the Semajian method, so that I can credential people to teach this method. In fact, this year in the schools, that's what I would like to do. Credential the teachers to teach the method. I'll be able to reach more students this way. It's wonderful to have a cohort of students, but we'll have a cohort over here and a cohort over there. But what if the teachers understand the method? And then they can implement it with their students. Now we're teaching more. You see?
Yes.
Well, you're connecting, you're making different relational connections. Right. And then that's where it's at. And just like to come onto this podcast this evening and meet Richard and realize that, oh, there's the Gear Up guy, right? Right. Really? Like, I'm not the only, right, warrior walking in and out of Peckham or juvenile justice all day. Semaj is as well. And we're siloed. But no, we're not now.
We're not.
And that
you're right.
Resilience.
Yes. Resilience, the resilience breakthrough. And indeed, when you look at the opportunity of poetry to empower then the love of learning.
Yes.
It's about the love of learning. Now I want to go to school. Now I want to be part of this amazing opportunity, because it's, again, not just sit and get, what does it mean to me? How can I express myself? And the reality is, as we know, the third grade reading law, the dropout crises in America doesn't start in high school. I had the honor of being principal of alternative ed and on a national board. High school is triage.
Yeah, true.
High school is triage. Middle school, they begin to, why even try?
Right.
And then when you really look at it, we are talking K through 3.
Yeah.
You cannot read by third grade. So again, shout outs to teachers who are doing everything they can to look at a system that doesn't just pass our kids along.
Yes.
We need to empower where they're at, and how do we get them to the next level. So it's a holistic approach. And that's what Semaj and the team does. Because an uneducated, illiterate society can indeed pose significant challenges to democracy.
Right. That's what we're dealing with now.
Is the truth. If we don't have critical thinking, access to information, to how to pull it, what is my participation? And indeed, illiteracy gives limited economic opportunities.
Lack of expressive language causes a series of problems.
There's more violence in non-literate communities because people cannot express themselves. Not to be able to get out of your head and express yourself causes violence. Not be able, and you live shorter lifespans. And I need microscopes, excuse me, for next year. Because
guys,
I need compound microscopes that are electric, because the theme is Black Dandelion and micro intelligence.
Mhm.
And so the micro intelligence, these microscopes for things you can't see with the naked eye, right?
Yes.
You can't see them. You need a microscope to see them.
Mhm.
So we need a microscope, a poetry scope.
Mm.
We need a poetry scope to examine things that we cannot see.
Mhm.
There are many things we can't see. Like we can't see thoughts. We can't see our feelings.
Yeah.
So we need a poetry scope, like a microscope or a telescope. We have a
Mhm.
poetry scope to
Mhm.
examine and to look at the things that we cannot see. But
Right.
I need to connect it to a physical microscope
Right.
Mhm.
so that
Yes,
students
ma'am.
can look in this microscope and understand science and understand things they cannot see and how they do exist.
Mhm.
That
Right.
was the problem with when we had COVID. People did not understand what a virus was because they had never seen a virus.
Uh-huh. They didn't
It was
understand.
it's a very difficult concept because we haven't had science at early ages.
Right.
Well, my undergrad is in biological sciences,
Right.
so I bring the sciences in.
Why you're so scientifically inclined. He was a science teacher. Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes. And so when you look at that love of learning, you also then look at the crises we're in education,
Mhm.
on attendance.
Yeah.
The average daily attendance is chronic in America, especially
Yeah.
now after said COVID,
Mhm.
right? And so when there's disengagement and apathy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
is because I don't love learning. How
Mhm.
do I have this passion? And so who are these role models that I go just because I want to be around my teacher, be around the community? And it comes down to the amazing bus drivers, the cooks, the janitors. It's one team. It's not just the teacher or the administrator, principal. It's the entire team, because the influence that a bus driver has can change the trajectory of the day. And so
Yeah.
it's anyone in education, like we keep saying this. And
Yes.
so, Semaj, to go out to all the people out there, this should be, after I met with Semaj on that snow day, I said, Semaj, this should be in every school, school.
Yes.
Because as an educator and an administrator, you see, what are we missing in the traditional? Yes.
Mhm.
And it's hard. And Miss Semaj knows it's hard to even get in to talk to a principal, let alone change the trajectory of the bloody
Absolutely.
schedule.
Absolutely.
Right? It's so important.
Mhm.
It's so important. This is not fluff.
Mhm.
This is core.
Yes. Yes.
if we don't change and we don't look at education from a different perspective, if we
Mhm.
don't turn some of these things inside out
Mhm.
and reverse this and expand this, we are in such dire trouble.
Mhm.
We really are. This
Mhm.
is so serious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We have to create new ways of thinking and being.
Yes.
We must, because the old ways, we keep doing the same thing. The
Yes.
universities keep producing the same kind of teachers with the same type of curriculum
Yes. Yes.
because the institutions are invested. They're a being, they're a living being, these institutions. And
Yes.
everything that's a living being is interested in its own lifespan
Right.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
is interested in its own continuance. So whether you're a university, you're interested in your own continuance.
Mhm.
That's where the focus is. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying that the people that teach in the universities are not sincere. Of course they're sincere, but guess what? It's not working.
Mhm.
It's not working. You can be sincere.
Mhm.
You can have all the love in your heart you want,
Mm.
but we're 44th in Michigan
Mhm.
in literacy. It's not working.
Semaj, to lean into that in Latin, tabula rasa.
Rasa.
Tabula, the tablet.
Yeah.
Rasa, to erase. We need to clean the slate.
Nice.
Keep what is good, clean the slate, and move forward.
Mhm.
I am telling you, from an educator in the inner city of Flint,
Mhm.
bringing Miss Semaj Brown, her team, and the Black Dandelion Convergent voice changed lives, had my scholars show up to school more, got them out of school, and then they loved to learn. And Miss
Right.
Bouchard, the amazing
Right.
teacher, leaned into that with those scholars and brought them to a whole nother level.
That's
And
right.
it was amazing. I was
Yeah.
I was at the gallery, at the Mount Walsh Gallery, and what is the artist's name? Famous artist, Booker. She's a
Mhm.
famous sculptor, and she works in rubber. And so I asked one of the scholars. I said, "Have you selected your theme?" And he said, "Yes, I have, Miss Brown," because I don't allow them to say yes. We are complete sentences all the time. Yes, Miss Brown. No, Miss Brown. Put a handle on it. Create sentences. Come on, sentences are our friend. That's how we travel. We move through there. It's like a street taking you somewhere. You don't go down half the street. You go down the full streets. Give me a full sentence. Anyway, I said, "So you have your theme?" "Yes, Miss Brown." I said, "All righty." I said, "What is your theme?" He said, "Power." I said, "Very good." I said, "So where do you see power in the Black Dandelion?" So he got the poem. He circled it. This is power because. Then he read it. I said, "Very good," because they needed just to have 2 or 3 rationale.
Mm-hmm.
Then I said, what piece of art have you selected?" And it was this piece of rubber, and all these different slashes and cuts, and it just rubber everywhere. I said,
Mm-hmm.
how does that represent power? He said, "You see all that rubber, how they cut it all up everywhere?" I said, "Yes." He said, "And it's bending over?" I said, "Yes." He said, "It doesn't break."
Mm.
And that gives us this power because it doesn't break.
Doesn't break. It bends, but it doesn't break.
Good break. I said, "And you are going to write that because that is brilliant."
Oh, right. Right.
And so we go to the table, and I said, "Remember what you said. We're going to write it, and we'll learn all the words."
Mm-hmm.
And literacy just keeps birthing, in the Black Dandelion.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we want. We want people who can think critically, our students.
That's right. And that is
There's
so.
And the rest of us follow suit. The rest of us. It's not just our educational system that needs to rethink things, right? And approach differently.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right. I
Yeah.
had I won't read it to you, but I'll tell you what she said. I'll paraphrase it. In Contra Costa County in California, they're
Yeah.
using the social workers are using Black Dandelion.
There-
And one of the social workers wrote to me, Sunita. They may be on. I may be listening. And she said that she understood Black Dandelion when she first heard the words because she's lived it.
Mm-hmm.
She's been homeless. She understands the abuse. She said, but she used her imagination like the little girl in the Black, they call her a little girl, but we don't know if it's a little girl or not. It could be a little boy in Black Dandelion. But there is no, that's what emerged out of one of these workshops, that there's no indication that it's a little girl other than Semaj.
Mm-hmm.
The poem doesn't indicate gender at
Mhm.
all. But anyway, she said in the poem, the character says, "My freedom fighting flowers." It's the freedom fighting flowers frolic to survive.
Mm-hmm.
The character gave the flowers power. She used her imagination. It was a terrible time. How was this person going to survive this terrible violence that was all around her? She looked down, she saw some dandelions, she said, "You'll help me."
Mm-hmm.
She used her little imagination,
Mm-hmm.
and they became her friends, and they talked to her and she talked to them. She make believe. Use your imagination to help yourself get out of the situation that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's using that technique with the children that she services out in California,
Mm-hmm.
taking that part of the poem specifically
Yeah.
and asking them to be like the character in the poem and use your imagination. What can be your thing that you give power to, that will help you, that you can play with, that you can talk with, that you can plan with?
Right.
All right. Well, listen, guys, you know it is 9:25. We are
Ooh.
5 minutes
Over. How do they get the what do you call it? The link to the GoFundMe. We're doing a GoFundMe, everybody.
Yeah, the GoFundMe. You know what? I'm going to put it also. Let me see if I can hold on one second.
Okay.
Here.
Oh, this has been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah. Copy. And I'm getting ready to put the GoFundMe into the chat. And I will also do some other things, Semaj. There it is. It's in the chat.
And I thank you to the people that have started giving donations.
Yes, yes, yes. And thank you guys. Please like this video wherever you're streaming it from, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or what? YouTube. Oh my God, YouTube.
Right.
And you please subscribe. I'm so close to 500. That magical number 500. I am so close. Please subscribe and help support the work that I'm trying to do to educate our communities all across this country about something. Okay. And you can share the video so we can share the wealth of information of what is Black Dandelion Convergent Voice. Okay. And we've got more comments and what have you and everything, but I'm not going to post them right now because we're going to say goodnight. All right. Good night, everyone. Let's wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to read the comments, though. We're going to be able to read the comments, aren't we, Pam?